Thanks for having me. It was a great experience. First time juror at the ETPrime Leadership Awards for Women. It was fantastic to see the quality and spread of women leaders, which goes to show that, I think that we need to give them a lot more sort of a role in leadership ranks across our organizations. I think that kind of sets a preamble for what kind of lessons I've learned and want to adapt in our organization. And I think what mistakes other leaders tend to make is that these are, cultural mandates that you can put on a switch after a certain period of time. And I think the biggest mistake that most young leaders make is that you can't postpone these mission and vision value statements. If it's not there on day one, it's tougher to incorporate on day two. If it's not there on day two, it's very difficult to incorporate on day three. And if a year or two passes by and the culture is already set, you've set in motion a culture that doesn't have the ability to morph itself. And then it's far more painful to regress and then progress, right? Taking that 3 steps back and then taking 5 steps forward. And what I mean by that is culture needs to be set on whatever your core mission and values are, right? Whether it's the impact you want to drive, whether you want to bring in more gender diversity, everything else fades in comparison to just making money, which is, I don't think that's a long-term sustainable model in this day and age anymore. Because I think all your stakeholders, whether that's your employees, your shareholders, your investors, everyone, I think, is beginning to realize that the world's not sustainable by simply making money for the sake of, but by driving some of these changes using the corporate as a starting point, because that is the force multiplier in terms of where you can instill all of these values, not just into a company, but potentially into society, right? You can drive changes on women employment, whether it is environment sustainability. Yes, of course, we'll all take it home and our kids are being taught that we can implement this at home, but where can you see this at scale is when corporate leaders, small business leaders adopt this, and suddenly there's a wave of this which sets culture and tone for the next decade and for the next 2 decades and so on. And so the big learning has been that someone asked me, what is one thing they didn't teach you at business school? And I kind of twisted that and said that one thing they teach you wrong is, the very swanky slogan which says, it's only business, it's never personal. I think that is dramatically different in the real world. It's all personal, and there's nothing called business, right? It's about human relationships. It's about how you treat every partner in that stakeholder journey. And the minute you miss that and forget that, I think you're not building an organization which is either sustainable or worth remembering. If I, as a leader, had the option, even if it took a 5 or 10 year journey longer, I would want to build an organization and a culture which is worth remembering.